Hi everyone. I wanted to make my first video on something that I think should be considered way before the bird buying and the cages and the toys. And this way you have a good idea of where to start when you are buying a bird. And I think there's four general things that need to be discussed with your family. The first thing is money. Um, Birds can cost a lot. Um, I won't lie to you. You can go to the store and buy a cheap $20 budgie who was probably bred locally or very close to locally. And these are really good like starter birds for people who maybe have kids and they want them to learn a bit of responsibility. But many times these birds are not hand raised. They're not fed the greatest. Um, so keep that in mind. Just to put this into perspective for you, my little green buddy, Kia, I'm sure you saw him in the first video. He's coming back for some more too. Loves to talk with his mommy. He cost me $200. See this? He's not very big. He's not very big at all. Lots of energy. He cost me $200. Yes, you're a very pretty bird. Thank you. So keep that in mind when you're buying a bird, because even the little ones can cost you a lot. I love Kia. I think he's the greatest. But he was a hand-fed baby. He had a lot of time spent with him as a very young hatchling, and it shows. He's very friendly. Other birds who are a bit bigger than him, I'm sure everyone out there who knows even a little bit about birds will know what a cockatiel is. A bit bigger than what he is, with the funny looking mohawks. They can be anywhere between $150, $200, $300, depending on what kind of colors you can find. Conures, I've seen them go anywhere from between $350 to $600, $700, $800 for just one. Bigger birds, parrots like Amazons, African greys, they'll be anywhere between $500 to about $1,000. And then you can get into the bigger birds like macaws, cockatoos. Those things I've seen cost anywhere between $1,000 to $15,000. It's crazy. So keep that in mind. Remember that money does not just stop at the bird. You need to buy cages, you need to buy toys, play gyms, vet bills. There's lots. So money is definitely a factor. The next thing is time. How much time do you have to spend with a bird? If you work full time, have kids, go away on the weekend, you don't want to get a bird who is going to learn to resent you because he's stuck in a cage all day. So time is definitely something that you need to consider. I like to spend at least 2 hours actually with my birds every day. Most of the time they're not even in their cages. When I come home from school, the cage doors are popped open and they have rain over my room. They love it. I don't spend all night here upstairs, but I do spend a good chunk of it. So they do get out of their cages. They do get to spend a lot of time with me, but you don't want to get a big macaw if you're going to be home an hour or two a day. A lot of the times they go to bed with the sun, or in the summer if the sun goes down really late, you'll want to be putting them to bed at about 8:30. So keep that in mind when you have a bird, that you need to spend time with it. The next thing is space. Birds need cages. They're not like dogs where they have a bed and that's about it. They do need big cages, relative to the size of bird, of course. My little green buddy doesn't need a huge cage, but keep that in mind. Depending on what kind of bird you get, you're going to need to accommodate it. Little birds tend to run in cages that are about 16 by 16 to 20 by 20. So if you can spare that much room in your house, then fine. Get a bird if you have the time and money. Bigger birds like macaws need huge cages. Keep that in mind, that if you have the time and money, you also need the space for a big macaw. Another thing that you need to consider is that it doesn't just stop at the cage. Many of the bigger birds need other play areas around your house. Macaws and cockatoos, especially cockatoos who like to be with their families, are probably going to need another play area where they can be with you. Last thing, if you can satisfy all those other things, is that you need to talk to your family and consider what else you have in the house. If you have a 3-month-old baby, it's probably not the time to get a bird. Birds are very intelligent creatures. They need lots and lots of time. And if you have a baby, you might not be able to deal with that time. Another thing, if your bird decides to have a screaming fit in the middle of the day and your 3-month-old baby is sleeping, it will probably wake little baby up. And it's not trying to get back at you. They don't do that. Birds are loud. That's just bottom line. Like dogs like to run, birds like to be loud and fly around the house, if you let them. Another thing to consider is pets. If you have a lot of dogs, especially if you are considering getting a little bird, you're going to want to limit the interaction between those two. I don't care what kind of dog you have and how good it is with your birds. You do not want to leave your birds with your pets, with your other pets, alone. I have a hunting dog, so that's a definite no. But I know somebody else who has a dog who is great with her birds, but again, they are never left alone. I've seen bigger birds play with little dogs. It's actually quite funny. So that might be an option if you have a bigger bird and a little dog. But again, don't leave them alone. I'd be more scared for your dog if you have a big bird and a little dog. But again, so you have to keep these things in mind. If you can go through all those things with your family members and come to a really good grounds on it, then by all means, get a bird. They're a lot of fun. They often live more than the average dog, unless you can find a dog that lives to be 100 years old. They also have things like certain needs that your dog needs that your bird will not. You don't need to take a bird out in the freezing cold to go for a pee. As far as vet bills go, they're fairly low. There's not really a whole bunch of vaccines you can give your bird, so it's not like you have to get rabies shots every year, so there's that. But please, 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 keep these things in mind. Money first, then your time, then your space, then everybody else. Hope you learned something. There's lots to learn. I promise you, there's lots to learn. Keep learning. Your birds will love you for it. Thanks everyone. I'll see you later.